happen.
Separated by cosmic cabinets, Brandon, Paul, and Logan are broadcasting the Breakdown Podcast live using their telepathic powers. My name is Brandon Miracle, broadcasting live from the Break Room Arcade. If you look south of me in the video version, you'll see the beautiful face of Paul Anderson, broadcasting live from the Break Room Clubhouse. To the right of me in the video version is Logan Welliver. He's
I
looking
only have
smug,
one monitor for my computer.
smug with his one monitor from the Break Room bedroom. Welcome to the Breakdown Podcast, recorded live on May 18th. This is episode 14, Pokemon Rumors Galore. On today's episode, we got a lot to talk about when it comes to Pokemon. If you haven't heard, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee have both been leaked, rumored to be coming to Nintendo Switch in 2018, likely to be shown this month. What do you guys think about that?
It's interesting.
So I'm not quite as sold on this one as I am about Star Fox Grand Prix.
That's the opposite of what I hear from a lot of people.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They believe. Oh, see, I don't think that, because when I hear about Star Fox Grand Prix, it's so out of the blue. Yeah, but one, it's not. I mean, Nintendo has a precedent, you know, for putting weird games together, right?
True.
So whatever. And then the amount of talk within the community adds a lot of credibility to that. And then from certain sources saying, like, we've heard these things, and everybody's corroborating the sources, and they're like, this makes a lot of sense. And so that's where I'm at with, like, Star Fox. I'm at a little... I think this one still makes sense, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I could see it happening. I could see it being true. So much so that I feel comfortable actually talking about it. A lot of the times, like, rumors come and they go. But, you know, we're dedicating a portion to this podcast just to talk about this. Because, you know, we think that, or we hope that, you know, this might be the case.
It hasn't gotten shot down yet. Pokemon Company says that it does not comment on rumor or speculation. So,
and that's just smart, right? So, yeah. Like, because if you say you don't comment on it, whether it's true or it's wrong, you have the same reaction.
Yeah.
So you can't really tell based off of that if they don't comment, because, like, I wouldn't do that kind of stuff unless I was just like, okay, say I had an album and it leaked, and I was like, there it is, take it.
For the Pokemon Company, it's ultimately the best choice for them to not comment on anything, whether it's true or not. They'll talk about it when they're ready.
Yeah, and that's multifaceted too, because, like, one, if they don't shoot it down, people keep talking about it.
Sure.
And that's good press.
It is.
And on the other side, not talking about it, it's like you don't want to feed the bear, you know.
No stirring the pot.
No,
and that's not to say that they haven't been stirring their own pot, because you know, on these various official Pokemon Twitter accounts, they've been posting pictures that feature Pikachu and Eevee together pretty prominently, like, over the last couple weeks, and it's almost like, well, actually, even that Lapras photo that leaked out, you know, however long ago, that had the trainer with the Eevee on top of its head.
Yeah.
Right after that happened, one of the official Pokemon Twitter accounts posted a picture of a Lapras plushie that I believe had an Eevee in it. Almost as to say, hey, we see you, and we're not going to say anything.
Honestly, like, when that screenshot came out, too, I didn't even realize there was an Eevee on the trainer's head.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I read that elsewhere that I'm like, oh, is that what's going on here? Because I can't...
It was hard to make
this out.
Before we get a little bit further, I do want to highlight some comments in the chat right now. Intense No Play says, I'm getting tired of these leaks. If they're fake, then they just waste everybody's time. If they're real, then I would have rather been surprised. This crap is getting ridiculous to me. And this is a sentiment I've had for years. And I don't know where you guys stand on this, but it does kind of ruin the surprise a little bit. One of the worst leaks for me that's ever happened was Roy and Ryu being leaked for Super Smash Bros. Days before they got announced in a Nintendo Direct that was completely focused on that. So we got that Direct, we already knew what was coming, and there was nothing new there, and it just, like, ruined the entire surprise of the whole thing.
To a slight degree, I do kind of find leaks like this fun, because
there's fun to be had.
A lot of times they're not true, but it's interesting to see what other people are like envisioning for the next titles in these franchises, and then seeing just kind of, well, did they guess right? Were they close? Because that's a safe guess. It's less fun when they're spoiling something that has yet to be announced. I do agree that it's better to get like an official announcement and find out that way than 3 weeks beforehand, hey, this is happening.
Yeah, I'm pretty indifferent about leaks. It's fun when they're true. It's also fun when they're not true, because if you don't have not true ones, the true ones aren't as fun when they are true. But I think I'm mostly indifferent because I don't care how I get the information. Mostly. Sometimes it is nice to get that big drop. Everybody was speculating about Smash being on Switch. Did you guys know that it's on Switch?
What?
Huh?
But everybody can speculate, but there was no actual leak or anything indicating that it was going to be revealed that moment. I was so convinced that it wasn't, and then that ended up being the best surprise because I just wasn't anticipating it.
Yeah.
So in that way, it can ruin that. So say Star Fox Grand Prix is true, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If it shows up, I'm gonna be like, oh, finally, I get to see it, as opposed to, did they just do that? I thought Star Fox was dead after Zero. Did that just happen? But if it comes up that this is true and they reveal it, then it's not going to hit as hard. That being said, I don't think that's going to affect my long-term outlook or opinion on a piece of our product.
That's why I have to disagree with you there a little bit.
Okay.
I've had the thought that some of these leaks may have been intentional, just by the sheer nature of the games that they are.
Right.
You look at a game like Mario plus Rabbids, which got leaked months before that game got announced, but the general reception to that leak initially was very negative.
Right.
But over the course of several months, people started warming up to the idea of this game being real, and then ultimately, when they finally saw the game in action, they were like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't be upset about this."
Right.
Rather than going there blind, seeing Mario and Rabbids in the same place and just being disgusted and not actually judging it based on its merit.
Right. Okay.
I think based on both these leaks, it's not ruining the announcement for me if and when they get around to actually announcing these games. It's more or less just piquing my interest in these concepts. In both cases, I don't know what the Star Fox game would even look like outside of the very little bit of details we've gotten. And some of the reports are that, it's a visually stunning game. So I'm just going to be excited to actually finally see what this game could even be. And
especially
the same
Zero.
thing with Pokemon. They're talking about with this, it might have elements of the Pokemon Go in it, and I don't know what that means. And part of me is like, that's terrifying. It's a little bit terrifying, but I also trust that they're going to make a solid entry. They're not going to, go too nuts with it.
Right.
And there is very tasteful ways they can go about combining those two very different games to make something even better. So I don't want to judge it until I see it.
Right. No, actually, I just wanna make a point about the whole Pokemon Go integration or whatever people call it. They're gonna do something with Pokemon Go. I think what they meant by that is that if you're on the touch screen, if you're catching a Pokemon, you swipe to throw the ball, or if you're on the TV, you do a motion with your controller to throw the ball. And I think that's as far as it goes. I think in terms of actually really catering to Pokemon Go, I just don't see it happening.
There was someone that mentioned they brought up the Pokewalker, and I could see that being a very interesting concept. You send a Pokemon from your game to your phone, and then you take your steps, and it counts it through your phone. And then you can send it back, and it levels up a bit. You maybe get a chance to get some items and whatnot. And so it's taking the game and taking your Pokemon with you and kind of getting that outside integration.
I think Game Freak is in a position where they know how far they can take something like this. And they're not the kind of company that's going to completely 180 their million-selling franchise of 20-plus years.
Right.
They're going to make some evolutions, to the series that, could benefit it in the long run, like they have been for the last few games. So, like, elements of Pokemon Go, I do not think are going to mean taking your Switch outside, having an encounter with a Pokemon, and touchscreen sliding a Pokeball at the Pokemon. We see in that Lapras screenshot, there are Pokemon organically in the world, which is something we talked about during our speculation stream, which didn't even occur to me, so we might actually be right on that.
That's something that I would actually just really, really enjoy, being able to see, oh, hey, there's a Pidgey here, and I got to catch it because it's a Pidgey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So now I'm wondering, because I think Paul put a seed in my head, and it's just like I just did a 180, right? So while I kind of stick to what I just said, I'm gonna do some speculation here.
Do it.
Okay. Pokemon Go and Let's Go Pokemon for the Switch. Okay. Assuming that it all happens, what if instead of ever having to sell a Pokewalker, they just integrate that functionality and that connectivity into Pokemon Go for starters, right? Mm-hmm. And then like maybe it's a really simple like integration or something like that where you can check all your Pokemon and you can manage your Pokemon maybe from Pokemon Bank within Pokemon Go. And then so you still got your Pokemon Go, and that's still its own thing. But in addition to that, like you can like still check up on your other Pokemon. Maybe walking here does something in game on your Switch. So your Switch, your Switch is still in your dock, but you got your phone. I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna go catch some Pokemons out here. I mean,
I'd be so into that. Like honestly, that would get me back outside just wandering around trying to find Pokemon again.
Like could you imagine having and maybe they've been waiting to put battles in Pokemon Go.
I think this is why maybe
that's kind of what
not.
I was thinking. That's kind of what I was thinking.
If the game is going to feature these integrations, we don't know like to what extent. Maybe they've refrained from putting traditional battles and trading in Pokemon Go because they're going to have this tertiary experience as the main Pokemon experience, and they don't want to take away from that.
Right.
That's how I see it.
Okay, I can see it. I guess there's just a lot of possibilities, even outside of just like, what's the gameplay going to look like? No, connectivity features.
One form of connectivity that I've seen people getting excited about and wanting is actually something that I don't want. I do not want the ability to transfer Pokemon between Pokemon Go and the main game. Just don't want that.
Yeah, I think that would make it a little bit unfair.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Roger, this was something he was getting excited about. And I'm like, I don't really think that's such a great idea because you can catch Pokemon pretty frequently and willy-nilly in Pokemon Go. And I feel like that would skew the game balance a little bit if you could just catch Pokemon at whatever rate you want.
Yeah, it would make both games unbalanced.
I mean, if they did something else where you're still rewarded for going out and catching, 20 Pidgeys in Pokemon Go, and maybe you get like a special hold item for Pidgey in the other game. Right. Something that's not fine. Like as overt as like, hey, you can go catch 20 Pidgeys and then transfer them over and then trade them with people. And like,
God,
no.
Yeah, I think we're arriving at a pretty safe and pretty good integration for Pokemon Go because we seem pretty excited at the prospect of going out and playing Pokemon Go for rewards like this without it like interfering too much with the core experience.
Yeah. What I see Pokemon Go obviously as like more of a tool to be used to get more just get more people together, obviously. Like, I mean, do you guys remember like when Pokemon Go like came out that summer?
How could we forget?
I was in the heat of that, man.
Yeah, and then just being outside and just like having conversations with strangers, just because you guys were like all playing Pokemon Go. Like that was my experience Like, just I went out like with my brothers and sisters at night, and there'd just be like tons and tons of like kids running around the park when it's dark at like 9 or 10, and it was just the funniest thing to watch and see. And it was all really good natured. Like I've never seen like just a rush of random people running around who were also like, hey, like we're all in this together. People screaming that there was like a squirrel down the street and kids just like stampeding down the road to find it, you know? So, I mean, that kind of experience, if this Switch, version of Pokemon is able to kind of like get some of that and draw into the experience in some way, while also encouraging those who are into Pokemon to maybe revisit Pokemon Go, have another reason Pokemon as well.
I would say that Pokemon experience that people got with Pokemon Go was already happening with the Pokemon games on 3DS, just to a much, much, much smaller scale.
Well, it was very obvious when someone's rocking around with 3DS, they could be playing anything. It gets very obvious when they're playing Pokemon Go, because it's like you're noticing the same Pokemon at the same time. Right. So
yeah.
But I mean, that's the real difference, though. Is like I didn't go out and see people with 3DSs, but Pokemon Go got me out of my house, and all of a sudden everybody's playing Pokemon. So it's a little bit different, but I mean, obviously it's different here than it may be in Japan. I imagine they, obviously you see people with 3DSs all the time or something like that, and then you can meet up or just connect for a battle or something like that. So maybe in this way, everybody's got their phones. If we're around and we're at a restaurant and people are playing Pokemon Go and there's some sort of friend integration, some sort of interconnectivity that they implement to integrate with this Pokemon Switch game, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities, and it's very exciting.
Speaking of possibilities, I want to spin the conversation in the direction of the chat, which has been having a conversation of its own. There is a debate going on right now about open world game design, and specifically how that would apply to something like Metroid Prime or Pokemon. We talked a little bit about this in our Pokemon speculation stream, where we were on board with open world Pokemon design. One of the arguments I see here from Dreamdrop Sora is he's saying that in some cases you are sacrificing an open world design for some of those minute and special details that you would get in smaller level designs. And I can see your point. Intense No Plays is refuting that with Breath of the Wild. Mind you, Breath of the Wild took an incredible amount of development time with a team of over 100 people. If we could dedicate that to Pokemon, that would be great. On the other hand, I don't think that's going to happen exactly. I think Pokemon would work in an open world design if that open world is scaled to be much smaller than what we experienced with Breath of the Wild. You look at a game like God of War, which is designed a lot more, I don't want to say constricted, but it's an open world with
has limitations. Spaces. Yes. It has limitations. Yeah. Breath of the Wild has pretty much no limitations. I mean, that's the feeling of being like open world, open air. But obviously, there are restrictions that are put on you in a game like God of War.
I feel like with Pokemon,
thanks for playing
something that could work would be doing still kind of more on the linear side, but maybe having a couple different options for starting path. And so you can still kind of do things in whatever order you want, but there's still like a very set way that you have this path to go here, this path to go here. After you get done with this, you have this path to go here, this path to go here. And so there's still the set path. It's not, go anywhere, do anything.
Right. Well, I mean, I think
we could maybe stand to remove some of the linearity from Pokemon.
I absolutely agree. I think a linear structure works really well for some. Something like Uncharted works really well with a linear structure, but it sacrifices that openness so it can tell a specific and really gripping story. You know,
and Pokemon is a lot different because that's a very personal experience. So I think we should have a little bit of freedom to go along with that.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
the interesting thing with that concept would be, in the original games, your difficulty was set based on what Pokemon you choose. So you go to that first gym, you're gonna have the easiest time with Bulbasaur. If you have that same option, like, doesn't matter which one you pick, you can go here. If you choose the Grass Star, you go here, you're gonna have the hardest time, medium, easiest. You choose the Water type, easiest, medium, hardest. And so you can still have like that choice of difficulty, but it doesn't matter what Pokemon you actually want to choose.
Yeah, and
that
I mean,
would actually work really well in the case of this game, if because it's rumored to be a remake of Yellow, and Pokemon Yellow was my very first Pokemon game, and for all of you that know, in the Kanto region, the very first gym battle is against Brock, who's his rock Pokemon. All I had was Pikachu, and basically my forced starter was completely useless against Brock in that gym. I had to go out and catch a different Pokemon in order to even get through it.
In this particular game, that wouldn't even change because Eevee's going to have just as difficult a time, and you're not going to have a chance to evolve it by the time you get there. So
if we have the option to, go to another gym first with that level scaling, that completely eliminates that problem.
I do want to just hold on the conversation about being at Kanto again, because that brings me overwhelming joy. I like that it's basing itself more off of Yellow versus the Red and Blue.
Yeah, because they've never done this
traditionally.
Before. They've never remade a special edition.
Like, that's the thing about this particular rumor that really resonates with me, is I just love the concept of it. I love where it's taking place. I love that it's kind of doing what Gold and Silver did, where it's taking place after the original games. And so it's not a direct remake, but it gives us a chance to go and explore this land that we haven't gotten to in 3D space before.
Sure.
In a new way. It's going to be a completely different experience than we originally had.
Yeah, I think falling back on something familiar might give them a lot of freedom in other ways. So I think, like, in a similar sense with Breath of the Wild, they kind of stripped it back to its basics, right? Mm-hmm. And that allowed them to create something entirely new. And so maybe in a similar way, this is their basic. Let's strip it back to its basics. Even so much so, it's like, let's not even try to create an original region or something that's based off of this region or something. Let's just go back to the first region and reimagine it. So we got a base for what we're doing. We have a structure. We can change it in small ways when nobody's going to notice.
It also makes sense, like, if they're trying to pull in that Pokemon Go crowd. That game launched with the original 150, and it was catered towards people who dropped off right after, Generation 1. So this is a pretty smart play. I remember, like, when we were talking to Roger about this, I was pretty adamant about wanting Generation 8 over something like this. Not to say that I didn't want it. It's just, I think the first foray into Pokemon on HD hardware probably should have been a new generation, but I can understand the approach.
Yeah.
Right.
And I have to agree with you, Paul. The fact that this takes place after, like, Gold and Silver, my very favorite Pokemon games, the remakes, by the way, is incredibly exciting to me. I thought that, spoiler alert, I thought that battle with Red on the top of Mount Silver at the end of Heart Gold and Soul Silver, in the original games as well, was one of the most, like, incredible things ever, because it's Generation 2 of Pokemon, and you finish the game by battling the trainer you were in the first generation, who used Pokemon much like the ones you probably would have had. So if we get the opportunity to do something like that again, follow up with Red and Blue, see where they're at right now, that's just really exciting to me, just from a story perspective.
You remember in Sun and Moon when they first announced that Red and Blue would be there?
Oh yeah, I flipped out.
Go back and battle them. Like, it's just as exciting still. Like, they can still play that card, and it's just as interesting. One thing that I do want them to go back and actually integrate this time, in the original games, the original ending was supposed to be that you battle Professor Oak.
Yeah.
I'd really like to do that. That sounds really hype.
Oh, this is a great opportunity to bring that back.
And it's whatever starter doesn't get chosen. Like, that was the coolest concept, and I can't believe it didn't make it into the final game. Like, that breaks my heart.
You know what? Now I'm convinced that that's going to happen this time.
Red and blue are just a distraction.
In the spirit of cut content, there's actually a few things that have come to light recently that I don't know if you guys have heard about.
Probably not.
A few weeks ago, I don't even know who did the interview, but it was discovered in that interview that Pikachu originally had a evolution beyond Raichu called Gorochu, or Gorochu.
Right.
And that was cut for whatever reason. And run with me on this. So we got Pokemon Pikachu and Pokemon Eevee. So I think this is a good opportunity to bring in that new evolution for Pikachu to give players a new way to experience that evolution line in that Pokemon. But also, and this is something I talked about on the Nintendo Dads podcast that I've been thinking about, is you could also do that for Eevee by giving Eevee a normal type evolution, a Eeveelution, if you would. And the name they came up with was Eevee, and I was like, yep, that's probably it. But on top of that, there's a manga coming out about one of the creators of Pokemon, I believe, Satoshi Tajiri, I believe is his name. And on one of the first pages, there's design documents for the original 151, including like 3 or 4 Pokemon that were cut from the game. And their designs are just in there for you to see, just plain as day. So this is also an opportunity for them to introduce even some of that cut content. I don't necessarily want to see a brand new generation of Pokemon, added to the Pokedex, but this is a cool way to kind of expand that without, overdoing it.
Well, it's Gen 1 again, but a little bit fresher because it's just teensy bit of things that you just never experienced before that were originally supposed to be there but weren't.
Yeah.
Well, it makes me so excited.
And, this is purely speculative. But before we continue, we should probably go down the list of the things that we supposedly know. So I'm going to go down the line. This is a 4chan leak, so, don't believe it, whatever.
It's super credible.
Yellow remakes for Switch was the first thing. We've talked a little bit about that. 2 versions, Pikachu and Eevee. Red and Blue play a role in the story. You and your rival are new trainers. Following Pokemon Return from Pokemon Yellow as well as Heart Gold, Soul Silver. I'm very excited about that. It's such a small thing, but it means a whole lot to see your Pokemon there beside you, walking in the real world. Or the real world.
Well, I mean, it makes sense in this particular game if Pokemon are just on the hub world. If your Pokemon isn't beside you and there's other Pokemon just running about, like that's gonna make me upset.
I have to take a moment to note Dream Drop Sora's comment. He says, I find it hilarious that the manga is supposed to be a series teaching school children about historical figures and that this is the first issue of the manga. It's about Pokemon. That's kind of amazing. That's how much of an impact Pokemon's had on global culture. Like, it's risen to a scale that is unbelievable. Going a little deeper, HMs are still replaced with the Poke Ride system from Alola. Yes, let's keep that. HMs are done.
Yes.
One of the most interesting aspects of this leak for me specifically is that the online has a hub for players. I'm going to assume that this is just a place that 50 or 60 trainers can all hang out in the same room and initiate battles and trades with each other. But also,
what form does it take?
I imagine, didn't Sun and Moon have like that Pokemon festival thing? And that's how you played with other people. I imagine something like that where you see the other trainers, but it's more active where you actually see them moving and all that stuff. Something similar to the hub system from Dragon Ball Fighter Z. Maybe without the way that you initiate battles because you have to run to different rooms to duel and all that stuff. I just imagine you being like in a town. You can walk up to another trainer and you could, ask them for a battle and they could accept it and whatnot. That's what I see in my head. I don't know if you guys have a different imagination than I do.
I like that idea pretty much as is.
Well, I'm flattered. I mean, is that something you want for Pokemon?
Is that something?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm really not. I don't know what I want from Pokemon, right? So like the online, obviously I like the idea of online, but I've never once played one of these Pokemon games online. I mean, maybe once or twice, but fighting with friends, and I'm like, I'm not so into Pokemon that I'm going to spend all my time getting all my Pokemons together and building a really good team and then going online. Like, I build a good team so I can beat the final boss, and then I stop playing the game. And it's not like I haven't. Yeah. And
But
it's
there's
not
a
like I
very
haven't
active online community that they have to cater to.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying is that's why I don't know. Because it's
not something you're a part of.
Right. I want core changes in the mechanics and the presentation and how I'm interacting with the game. That's what I care about. Where I imagine that a lot of people, they just care about building up their Pokemon team and dueling with their friends, which is awesome too, but that's always been there.
I think if they make it a little bit easier for people to approach it, because offhand, like I've never wanted to do online battles. So if they could find a way to make it so that, it's one, easy to do, and two, just a little bit more enticing, I'd probably get behind it a lot quicker.
I'm going to have to kind of bounce off a Dream Drop Sora again. He brought up the system that was in X and Y, and I don't know if you guys remember, but in X and Y, your entire friends list was on your bottom screen at all times. You could tap on their face and initiate a battle just like that. You didn't have to go to a special room. You didn't have to go to a special menu. You just tap on their face, you send them an invite, they accept, and you're battling just like that.
See, that makes a lot of sense. Like you want as little roadblocks as possible to that core feature. So if you just make it easy, it's like I'm playing Pokemon and I'm playing the single player game. Oh, but my buddy's online. I'm totally gonna whoop his butt, and then you hit his face, and then you whoop his butt, right? And that's the kind of thing you want. You don't want to have to go through a bunch of extra menus or presentations. You just want it to work.
Of all the online features, the only one I've ever really participated in actively was just online trading because it was easy.
Yeah,
battling in a lot of the games was pretty counterintuitive to get to, and so if they streamline that the way they've done kind of trading, I can get behind it.
It's weird because I feel like they took a step back in Sun and Moon, because then again, you had to go to a special place, then meet up with the person in the game and initiate a battle. I don't know why they backpedaled, because X and Y just did it exactly the way it needed to be done. Obviously, we're losing that second screen on Nintendo Switch, so I can kind of understand the need for something like this. And maybe the hub could have more features than just battling and trading. There's been mini games in Pokemon's past. There's been multiple types of battling. Like in Sun and Moon, they introduced the 4-player battle royale. I imagine that will probably come back, maybe in a new way. So I don't.
Instead of 4 players, it's 100 players.
Oh, 100 players and their Pokemon are all dropped on an island.
That's the quickest way to get 100 switches to burst.
Don't forget, it's all like turn-based. It's all turn-based combat. So you run into somebody and then you enter battle.
Dream Drop Sora is asking us a question. Before I move on, Nintendo Snow Plays also agrees with you, Logan, that they never cared about the online in Pokemon and they kind of stick to the campaigns. And obviously, that's a perfectly good way to enjoy those games. That's fine.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more to it than that. And they have those yearly regional and worldwide tournaments. And the Pokemon Company is very invested in their leagues. They cater their competitive community a whole lot. I almost said community.
Yeah, you did.
Dream Drop Sora asks, would you guys want battle commentary back? Something in the way of Pokemon Coliseum. I'm glad you said that, because I talked about that a whole lot in the speculation stream.
Yeah. So I think just in general, I want voice acting.
Oh, please.
Like, it doesn't have to be for everything. Maybe the cutscenes. Please, the cutscenes. And maybe a few other embellishments here or there, like battle announcements would be a really cool addition to voice acting.
Ride that surf! That was always one of my favorites.
But obviously the Pokemon series has a rich history of voice acting, just not in the games, and the pool of voice actors that you could just throw into this game just because they've already been involved before.
Brandon wants Christopher Sabat.
No. You just gave me a great idea. So,
you want the original voice actor for Ash to play Red?
No, that's not what I want.
It is now.
I want the character customization to come back. You were close, Paul, but you're way off. I want the character customization to come back, like from X and Y, but you need to be able to choose the voice for your character, and one of them should be Veronica Taylor, the original voice of Ash Ketchum, because that's what like 95% of the gaming population will use.
It'd be interesting. Yeah. It'd be interesting to at least like if you had a fully voiced protagonist.
Oh yeah, because they're always silent.
Yeah. It would be fascinating to see two different versions of the voices, and also a lot of work because then you'd have to input it for the girl and for the guy. They could have like mostly the same lines though, but it'd still be, another lot of extra work.
The thing with the commentary though is that it would add so much richness to the battles, which it's easy to kind of tune out battles and just autopilot what moves you're going to use, where this is something that would draw you back in. And I think just a very little thing, but hearing your trainer shout, use surf, is such a little thing that would add so much richness to this world.
Yeah, even just like having the announcer like call your moves and call the action like in Pokemon Stadium, which was like really forward thinking for an old Nintendo 64 game. Yeah. That would add so much. And one of the things I think we're overlooking is the fact that Nintendo, all these games up till now are on, handheld and on small cartridges and small media. Now they're going to be on at least an 8 GB cartridge for Nintendo Switch and an HD with the possibility of a 64 GB cart as early as next year. So even if we don't see like fully voiced characters in this game, there's a huge chance we could see it for the next game.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't anticipate this game will be too terribly large, but I mean, even then, like a 32 GB card for like almost any Nintendo Switch game. I mean, some of those ones that are really contentful will be pretty thick, but
yeah.
I mean, it's Nintendo. If they use a 32 GB cart, what are they going to do with the other like 30 gigs?
We're limited to 8 gigs now, I think.
What are they going to do with the other 6 gigs?
Are you talking about their compression formats that are like magic?
Insane, yeah.
One thing that I do want to bring up, unless there's some other things that you guys haven't talked about, before we move on, that I want to bring us back to that leak screenshot we saw. We pretty much covered everything that the leak brought up, except for the fact that there's going to be a Pokemon Go accessory. But I don't think we have to speculate much on that. We already talked about Pokewalker.
Yeah.
Dialing it back to the screenshot of the Lapras. Apparently that's a route on Cinnabar Island, so that lends more credence to the fact that it's, Kanto, assuming that we believe this is real. Spoiler alert, at the end of Sun and Moon, particular characters go to the Kanto region after the game is over. So they could have already been alluding to this, like, years ago when the game's launched. But the thing that stuck out to me most with that screenshot was the way it looked. And you know how it looked to me? It looked like Pokemon Sun and Moon.
In HD?
Not even in HD because it was so blurry, but basically that's what it looked like. And that really kind of disappointed me, to be completely honest.
See, I don't necessarily agree with that. If you look at I've seen like an HD remake of Sun and Moon, and like if you convert that game into HD, it looks pretty stellar. Like,
I agree with that.
The greatest in the world. It's not like really updating the visual style to take advantage of this hardware or anything, but
it's the fact that it's not changing that bothers me. Like up until now, like, with the 2D games, every 2D Pokemon game, there was a decent change in visual style for those games. Once we got to 3D, there was a big jump between even X and Y and Sun and Moon. So to see, very little change between Sun and Moon and whatever this game is, that would be a little disappointing to me. And I'm not even talking about like visual fidelity, just from an art standpoint. Like if it's too samey, it's going to feel samey to me when I play the game.
Yeah.
New Super Mario Brothers suffers from that greatly because all 4 of those games look exactly the same.
Right.
So that's more or less the direction I'm coming from. and the fact that there doesn't seem to be any kind of lighting engine going on. If you at least gave me the lighting engine, I could forgive everything else. That would make it look really different.
Right. See, and that's why while I believe, or I'm inclined to this leak, I think that this screenshot is like bunk.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I would say that if anything, like at its very best, this was very early on in development.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think this is going to be an accurate representation of the game. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking also, let's say this is in the game. You know, what kind of view are we getting on the ground?
First person.
You know? So, like,
there was
here,
one additional leak that mentioned like a third-person perspective, like behind the shoulder. But that screenshot still looks kind of isometric, top-down.
Well, okay. Well, hear me out. Well, I'm trying to explain this. Speak. What happened, is if we're on the water on this Lapras, they're not going to use the same camera. You know? Yeah. So you get this, like, you know, overhead kind of view of what's happening, and that's what you're seeing right there. But it could look much different when you're on the ground or on your bike or whatever else you ride in this game.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. But one of the other tip-offs for me was like you see some rocks and maybe some island shapes in the background, and they're like really geometric and blocky looking.
Right.
And that makes me feel like we'll be operating not so much on a grid, but something similar to Sun and Moon, where it was still very like constricted in the way we moved.
Right. Well, maybe in certain places, and maybe it isn't much different in that regard. But in terms of the visuals, maybe they're dedicating a lot to the actual world. Maybe the amount of things that are screen at certain points.
If they're putting all of their time and effort into new gameplay ideas, into things like that from a technical standpoint, then I can forgive it. It's just like we're making the jump to HD hardware, and I want to know why that was important.
Yeah, I mean,
the real question with this is, what do you think IGN would give that water?
There's too much of it in the one screenshot we got. Oh, there goes Logan. That's our show. There goes Logan.
Oh,
no. I mean, I think this is at least like a 6.0 water.
Oh my God, you're still on this.
Anything else that we should mention for Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Pokemon Let's Go Eevee before we move on?
I hope that if it's true, that it's a good game.
And according to the rumors, we'll find out before the end of the month.
So
let's find out.
Oh, there goes. Oh, Logan's completely gone now. For those of you guys in the chat, if you haven't heard the Pokemon speculation stream, that is still up on our channel. If you want to hear more about what we think about Pokemon on Switch before the leaks, definitely go there. Dream Drop Saurus.
6.7, too much Pokemon.
6.7 out of 10, too much Pokemon.
There's like 150 of them. I just all straight.
And there's more to see to be a Pokemon master. That's your destiny. Anyway, we're moving on to the breakdown segment of the show, where we talk about our movies, TV, anime, and games that we've been enjoying over the week. To kick things off, I watched The Karate Kid a few days ago because I love that movie.
Jaden Smith?
No.
Oh, I love Jaden Smith too.
Yeah.
He's the best Karate Kid.
No. Paul, I'm ejecting you from the group. Hold on.
Okay, I probably deserve that.
Remove from group. No, okay. Yeah.
Unmod him.
I think that's just one of my comfort movies. Like when I need something that's to help unstress me, that's a good movie. It's very encouraging. And I have an obsession with like martial arts training and just training in general. So like the training sequences in Dragon Ball, the training sequences in Naruto, they're like perfect for me and some of the most memorable things to me.
How many times a week do you go outside and wax your car?
Well, you have to wax all of the cars, and you have to do it in circular motions. So
on and off, yeah.
Yeah, you're pretty much never done. Wax on and wax off.
I could do it in 5 minutes.
One of the reasons I wanted to rewatch this movie is because there is currently a series on YouTube Red called Cobra Kai, which is a sequel to the original Karate Kid film featuring the actors from the original movie.
It's so brilliant.
Basically, the villain from the original movie, I think his name was Jonathan, who was a Cobra Kai Karate Club member, is now reopening the club again. But I believe like he's training a bullied kid. I haven't started watching it yet, but it's like almost like a role reversal. But he's teaching the club the way he was originally taught, which, as you know, was a big contention point in the movie. So I'm excited to go back and watch that.
See, the thing is, it's not a role reversal because I watched How I Met Your Mother, and I know that he was actually the hero of the series.
Of the Karate Kid?
Yep, it's a very tragic tale.
I guess in a roundabout way, you could probably arrive at that. So yeah, that was fun for me. I'm probably going to watch Cobra Kai after I get through the original trilogy. I might watch the next Karate Kid too. On top of that, I watched Deadpool 2 last night.
No spoilers.
There's actually a spoiler I want to talk about. Have you
I'm
guys
not seeing it till tomorrow, man?
You guys have seen Logan, right?
I have.
Yeah.
It spoils the ending of the movie in the intro of the film.
Okay, I can live with
it
that.
It spoils the ending of Logan and the.
Yep, and it rubs it in your face. Guess who hasn't seen Logan?
Are you serious?
Yep, the movie spoiled the ending of Logan.
Wait,
to be fair,
I want to know how that's framed, but that again, I'll just.
Well, have you seen the trailer where they say from the studio that killed Wolverine?
It's on their poster too.
Like, I mean, I kind of. I knew that was a thing.
This is a knock at the Infinity War spoiler thing.
It doesn't really surprise me, but I will say that, like, I had Logan spoiled for me months before I saw it.
See, the thing is, like I assumed the ending of the movie. It's really not all that surprising.
Right.
But it still kind of takes away some of the wind from the film to me.
Right.
When I got spoiled, it was like the most casual spoil of all time. And so it really like ruined that whole movie for me. It's a beautiful movie, but I couldn't like connect with it the way everyone else could because they didn't know that going in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of dampened my whole thing on it. I was actually going to watch the original X-Men movies and then watch Logan so I could have that full experience. And well, now I can't do that. I was literally at Walmart with Michaela like a few days ago looking at Blu-rays, and I was like, hey, look, all the X-Men movies. This is my opportunity.
Yo, if you know the characters,
but I don't.
in X-Men. Oh, okay.
You just need to sit down and watch them because they're movies.
Well, yeah,
I've heard that much. They're movies.
They're enjoyable. They're fun films. There's a lot of them that are really solid.
Yeah. There are other ones that aren't fantastic.
And then once you get to Logan's a fantastic film.
That's why I wanted to like build myself up to that. It's kind of like playing Uncharted 1 before playing the other 3.
Right. I watched Logan in black and white the first time.
I watched it in color.
So like
I've never seen
if you get the deluxe edition or whatever, it comes with like a black and white film. I was like, I'm just gonna watch that. And it fit really well. Anyway, you saw Deadpool.
I'm glad your dad enjoyed it in Intense Snow because I thought it was pretty great myself. Deadpool 2 is a better movie than Deadpool 1.
Oh, good.
I will say that with confidence.
That's all I need to know.
I will admit, I've seen Deadpool twice, and the second time I just didn't enjoy myself.
Oh, no.
I don't know. I just feel like I probably saw it too close to the first time I saw it, so the jokes didn't land as much for me because I don't know.
Right.
I was laughing a lot during the second movie.
Also, the development of that movie, it wasn't exactly clean. It was. I felt like in a way it was very rushed because they saw that it was rushed and it wasn't right. So like it's been rumored for years.
Apparently, I saw Logan and Invisible.
I'm watching Logan right now.
So what they were able to accomplish with the budget that they had and what they were working with, and they had to cut a lot out of that movie as well. There's a lot that they just couldn't accomplish, which made it a more focused experience.
And they make fun of it a couple times in the movie too, which is great.
Right. So I'm glad that this movie got the budget it deserved, and I hope it showed.
Yeah,
So,
I vastly prefer this to the first movie. I'll have to go back and watch the first movie again and see like how it compares for me.
I was actually gonna do that tonight.
You should. I pretty much remembered everything from the first movie, which doesn't happen a lot for me. Maybe that's why I didn't enjoy it as much, because I remembered it too much. Yeah, it's really good. I can't talk too much about it without giving anything away, so I'm going to let you guys see it. But when you guys see it, I'm assuming you'll have seen it before next week's show.
If my movie pass comes in.
Oh, yeah. So
Just go pay and see it.
So I got 3 free movie pass trials to give to friends, and I gave 1 to Logan. So
not a sponsor. Not a sponsor.
But if you want to, I mean, you know, just call me.
Can they sponsor us a free movie pass?
Yeah, I loved Deadpool 2. Really did love it. Moving on, right before the show started, I watched the first episode of 13 Reasons Why, episode 2, season 2. And I can't tell you how much I want to go back downstairs and keep watching it right now, but here we have a show to do. Logan, you haven't seen season 1, right?
Of what? I wasn't listening.
13 Reasons Why. You're part of the podcast. Open your ears.
I know. I was focusing on another part of the podcast.
13 Reasons Why.
26 Reasons
Oh, no,
Why?
I haven't. No, haven't seen it.
It's now 26 Reasons Why. Yeah.
I'm waiting for you to get through all of it before I decide how quickly I want to get around to binging it. Because I'm still not entirely sold on the concept of there being another season.
Well, I love the direction it's taking after watching 1 episode. So
That's promising.
yeah, I was unsure myself because as it's 1 novel, and the entire novel is covered in the first season. But the author is on board with season 2 and is involved.
Okay, see,
if I'm not mistaken.
That makes all the difference.
Yeah,
makes all the difference. Because then it's like, oh, you're wondering if it's like canon material, you know?
One of the things that this season is doing better than the first season is it's opening its episodes with a like 45-second, hey, we talk about some really dark stuff in this series. If you're having some issues and you need some help, here are the ways you can get some help. Because there was some pretty big, well, I guess it wasn't big, but there was some like social media controversy about the first season.
There was some backlash, yeah.
I think that's all died over. I haven't heard anything about season 2, and the trailer's been out for like 2 weeks now. So I don't think
I've heard one person complain about it.
I've heard no one.
I think it was that they probably just like read an article saying why the first season was bad and assume that's going to be the same thing over again.
I don't want to get too deep.
Which is fair, but
I don't want to get too deep into the controversy, but like I feel like a lot of the people who complained didn't watch it. But depending on your state of mind and, you know, the experiences you've had, you might receive the series a lot differently than someone like me who has dealt with the same or similar issues to the characters in this show. There's lots of perspectives you can take on this. Just I would say watch it at your own risk, but keep an open mind. So yeah, I'm excited with what season 2 is doing, and I look forward to watching the rest of that over the next couple days. And that's what I watched this week.
Right on.
Who's next?
Solid.
I can go.
Go for it.
So this week, after very much resistance, I finally sat down and started Brooklyn Nine-Nine. There was one clip in all of that like frenzy to try and get it uncanceled that just got me, and so it piqued my interest enough to sit down and start watching.
And it lasted like what, 1 day?
I mean, yeah, they really turned it around pretty fast, and I see why now that I'm starting to watch it, because it's a really like fun and enjoyable show.
It's a funny show. Honestly,
I have to admit I'd never heard of it before like it got canceled.
Yeah,
I'd seen the first episode of it before.
I'd seen like a handful of episodes, so I know what the show was, and then the fact that it was getting canceled, I was like, that doesn't seem right.
I'm still waiting. Like I'm assuming the clip that I saw that got me to watch is going to be the peak of the show, but I don't know yet. I'm waiting.
Oh, that'd kind of suck, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, it was a pretty high peak, so
that's how they handle movie trailers.
If it's building up to that, you know, It's at a good place already. Like I'm definitely enjoying it.
Okay.
If you haven't checked it out, Brandon,
it's a nice keep up with all this stuff, man. I try.
I just kind of like fell into it, and I've just been like mindlessly watching it because it's a easy show. Like talking about like comfort shows. Like this is a good one. It's something that just kind of put me at ease. It's something very lighthearted and just fun, and so I enjoy it.
Okay. What else you got?
So I sat down and continuing my Marvel marathon, I watched Guardians of the Galaxy again. That was it.
Quite a different lineup you got here, Paul.
Yeah. Well, I was trying not to like sit. I'm getting to the movies that I'm a lot more familiar with Marvel, so it's not as interesting. Like Guardians is still one of my favorite Marvel movies of all time, and watching again, I still have that same appreciation for it. But I didn't want to watch like 20 different Marvel movies in such a short spans of time.
No, I understand that.
I definitely need my change of pace, and so I kind of switched gears a bit. But gosh, Guardians is such a good movie. They balance the characters so well, and they all have so much personality.
We get
Guardians
3 next year, right?
Yep, I think so.
Just pushing them out there.
And then the last movie came as a recommendation, Heathers. Yeah, it's from the late 80s.
Yeah. I wanted to watch this.
You should. I went into it not knowing what to expect, and I can honestly say that it wasn't anything that I could have possibly anticipated.
In a good or a bad way?
In a great way.
Okay, cool.
So you have a clique called the Heathers. There's 3 girls all named Heather. They're all friends. They have another girl in their clique who's named Veronica.
Ooh, Veronica.
And it's what's the actress name from Stranger Things and Beetlejuice? We own some writer.
Oh, Winona.
Yeah,
Winona.
I think it's
so
Winona
she plays
Ryder.
Veronica.
Yeah.
And so she gets a boyfriend, and he's a rebel without a cause. I think his last name's even Dean, so just perfect, spot on. And you can tell that they don't necessarily like the people they're hanging out with. There's a lot of people in their school that they don't like. One of them being the leader of the Veronica, or not the Veronicas, the Heathers. And so it very quickly in the movie, they accidentally kill Heather, the leader of the Heathers, and then they forge a suicide note.
Oh God.
And so like it just keeps spiraling out of control from there. And for whatever reason, I thought it was just gonna be like a very normal like high school romance thing, and then that crap starts happening. And it just gets progressively more ridiculous as it goes. And so I absolutely enjoyed myself watching it.
Where'd you watch this at?
Hulu.
Okay.
Hulu.
Okay. Now we're talking.
Yeah, so if you have some free time, like please, by all means, stop and watch that.
Never a bad time for a musical.
I don't think you'd regret it.
So with that, Logan, did you actually watch anything, or should we move on?
No, I watched a few things.
Yeah, you did.
Honestly, I won't go on about it, but
okay.
I mean, it's
there was
mostly
nothing in your list, man.
Well, I know. It's because I'm bad at documenting things, right? I just kind of watched a few things that I watch about every week. Bob's Burgers is still going on, and it's as good as ever. So I still can't recommend.
I can't recommend it enough.
And I think the rest of the stuff I've been watching a lot of this week. So I think in terms of regular TV, see, like
let's have you launch the anime segment then.
Oh, okay. Well, as actually, well, before I do talk about anime, no, I think I talked about that last week. Yeah, I talked about that last week. So I'll just go on to anime.
You talked about it last week.
I'm pretty sure I talked about Bravest Warriors last week.
You did.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. So a few samples, right? So we had we had My Hero from this week, right? So we had the latest episode, and that was just, it was good. I don't know if there's, yeah, right. It's just chugging along.
That's how bad I ended up catching up. It took me until last night to watch it.
Right. Yeah, it just kind of, it's going. It's going. It's what we expect. It's good. You should watch it if you're not watching My Hero Academia at this point. I don't know what you're doing. You know? Other than that, there was a few other shows, 2 other shows in particular that I had an experience with. One I started maybe a week or 2 ago, and I can only watch maybe an episode or 2 at a time. And sometimes I'm like, I don't think I can handle it right now, even though I really enjoy it. And that's Pop Team Epic. That show is just on another level. If I understand it correctly, it's based on like a comic.
Yeah, it's similar to Nichijou, which I believe is also based on like a 4-panel comic strip.
Yeah. So I don't know what they were smoking when they brought this out, because I can imagine the comic could be pretty funny. But with this kind of thing, it's so chaotic. It's so mesmerizing at the same point, you know?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I believe there's a dub for that. What are you watching? Are you watching the sub or the dub?
I'm watching the dub.
I imagine they're very different experiences. I wouldn't be surprised. Probably. I really like the dub. It threw me for a loop because essentially each episode is the episode twice, but voiced by different people.
Yes, and I think a lot of the lines and jokes are different too.
Yeah, that's what Josiah was saying when we had him on the show, like a million years ago.
Yeah, so that kind of threw me like, why am I watching this? So if you don't like watching almost the same thing twice, it might not be for you.
The fact that
but it's not the same thing twice. Yeah, they were like, okay, we're gonna produce an 11-minute episode, and then we're just gonna redub it, and then that's our 22 minutes.
It's almost like Ghost Stories, except that entire show is a parody of itself.
Right.
I kind of dig that, though.
It's so chaotic, and it's so short, and it moves along so quickly, it doesn't feel very long. So maybe they wanted it to feel longer. I'm not sure. Pop Team Epic, pretty nuts, pretty weird. If you're into that kind of thing, I definitely recommend it because I'm going to keep going with it.
I think is the mindset you should have.
Very Japanese. But that could also mean different things. For example, I started watching Yu Yu Hakusho. Yes. Right? So I'm on the 5th episode. I think I might have finished the 5th episode at work, though I'm not sure, because at the end of work I was falling asleep in my chair. So
I might like Yu Yu Hakusho a whole lot.
Logan, I'm going to correct your spelling error for that. In the
Yu Hakusho. Nobody's going to see it.
I did.
So I'll tell you this. Just talking about the first episode, right? I was immediately gripped. I was like, I had really no idea what this was going to turn out like. I knew people, I know fans of it, but I personally didn't really know a ton about it. I remember our friend Kine was talking about Yu Yu Hakusho at one point, and was
me and him had a lot of conversations about it.
Yeah, you guys seem like pretty big fans. So immediately once I started watching that, I started thinking of him, and I was like, I should talk to him about Yu Yu Hakusho. But the first episode starts with the main character, who is to be unnamed because I can't remember. Oh,
Yusuke Urameshi.
Yusuke. I was almost there. Yasuke. I was like one letter off.
Sasuke.
Yusuke. And he was an alive boy, and then he was a dead boy, and he dies right at the beginning of the episode. And then the whole first episode is them telling and explaining his life.
Hey, you're dead.
And
Congrats.
the day that happened, you know, what happened in the day that led up to that point? How was he treated? How did he treat other people? And then how exactly did he get mixed up in the situation, which resulted in his death? And then subsequently,
but his death was meaningless.
Frickin' the Grim Reaper, right? What was her name? Botan. Can never keep these names straight. I'm not a true weeb. But then she was like, okay, we totally didn't expect you to die. Like, we were kind of like, crap, like that happened. And we don't even have a place ready for you. So if you want your life back, you got to jump through some hoops. But you can do it. The thing with Yu
Yu Hakusho is that unlike a lot of the other shonen anime, your hero is not he's not the traditional good guy. He's a street punk who got forced into the hero position. And so he has a very interesting spin because you just don't know what to expect with him.
Right. But I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting that, you know, even though, yeah, he's a street punk. He's been mistreated and he's hardened, but he's not gone. And obviously when he shows so how he dies, spoiler alert, first episode, how he dies is he gets hit by a car while he is pushing a child out of the way, right? So he dies instead of the child, which actually he doesn't die instead of the child. I'll just let you figure that out if you watch the show. Twist. I know, it's like, oh, so funny. Okay, I'm just spoiling it now. Turns out that if he did nothing, the child still would have lived and probably would have been better.
He would have had one less scrape on his elbow.
One less scrape. So he's like, your sacrifice was useless.
Congratulations.
You did a good thing, but you didn't need to because it would have turned out better if you just didn't. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I'm gonna keep watching it. So stay tuned for Logan's adventure through Yu Yu Hakusho.
Logan, I think we've been learning over the past couple weeks is that you're in fact a shonen anime fan, and you just never knew it.
I guess so. I don't even know. Like, this doesn't seem like a shonen to me. Other than the fact that, like, oh wait, they're fighting, but it didn't seem like the focus. So I was like,
it's still a shonen.
Right. No, I dig it. I mean, I'm such a fan of Dragon Ball and the character of Goku, and just like, I'm gonna go do it, and I'm not strong enough yet, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
My name's Goku, and I'm gonna do the thing.
And that resonates with me. That resonates with me. It's like, here's this impossible task, and guess what? You can do it.
Well, the thing I like about Yu Yu Hakusho,
I want to do that impossible thing. There's so many impossible things that I'd like to do in this lifetime that I'm going to do in this lifetime. So guess what? I am the star of my own shonen anime.
Dream Drop Sora. I've learned over the past few weeks that Logan is a massive weeaboo.
Not a weeaboo.
The thing I love about Yu Yu Hakusho, like, it's that same formula, but you have a protagonist that honestly would much rather not be there. Like, he's one of the easiest shonen protagonists to identify with because he's relatable. He's a human. He doesn't want to really put himself in that danger, but he has to. And he's the only one that can, combat, that has a chance in these impossible odds. But yeah, Yu Yu Hakusho was one of those like first anime for me, and I remember bits and pieces of it, and at several different points in my life, I got a few more bits and pieces. It wasn't until I was in high school that I was able to actually sit down and watch the whole series from beginning to end. And I really respect this series so much. Like, it might not be like the best anime of all time, but in my heart, it's up there with like Dragon Ball, Clannad, My Hero, Naruto.
I remember watching a little bit of it as a kid and not being able to get into it so much because it was less accessible to me in a way, because it was dealing with things that were outside my I don't know, my mental capacity at that age. And as a result of that, I never ended up returning to it.
I think it, like, as I watched at different stages in my life, it got easier.
Well, I assume it would be for me now. Obviously, I've probably watched things that are much darker in nature.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's something that I'll probably get to. And I say probably because I can never put a stamp on these things. Otherwise, I'll disappoint people.
It's okay. You've been disappointing me for not watching it for years. So.
You're just one big disappointment to me.
I'll blow through by anime pretty quickly. I watched My Hero Academia. All three of us did that.
What?
The only thing I watched that you guys didn't was Boruto, which is still in the movie arc.
Is it still good?
Yeah, we're getting closer to the end. We're in the like the final act of the movie right now, but in the series. So we're getting closer to the ending.
Getting closer.
Which in reality is the closer to the beginning to me.
That's probably where I will actually start Boruto, is when we're finally past the movie and I know that, like, by the time I catch up, it'll be new stuff.
Definitely, like, watch it from the beginning because there's some valuable stuff in there.
I will. I mean, is there anything there that I can skip?
There's not anything in there that I would skip necessarily. I mean, everything feels like a filler, and then you realize that maybe it wasn't.
Has a purpose. I feel you.
Yeah.
Filler with purpose.
Oh, yes, Nintendo Plays. We're on all your favorite podcast sources except for Spotify because they don't like us.
Yet.
They don't like us.
Yet.
Yeah, that's all the anime I did this week. What do you got, Paul?
Well, My Hero Academia. Persona 5, the animation. We're getting into the next... We're getting into the second palace. So, you know, just keeping that pace up. Because I think we're only like 5 episodes in. And we're one step closer to my waifu being introduced.
That's like 15 hours of gameplay an episode, man. That's like super fast.
Yeah. I'm really digging it. Like, this is a very, like, concise way to experience the story. And if the only complaint I have is that, like, battle sequences are kind of weird.
I think I'll do that instead of playing the game.
I advise it. I hate to say it, but
I mean,
kind
if you're
of
a fan of that kind of RPG, you probably are just better off playing the game. But if you're not, then there you go.
Yeah. I like that they're at least they have the anime for this, so there is another.
Right.
I also watched Black Clover, and last week I think we were in like a filler, and then this week I think we're going places again. I don't remember. It's Black Clover, yeah. And then last but not least, I watched Shokugeki no Soma.
I'm 2 weeks behind now.
Brandon, please. Just please. Didn't you have one more show though, Brandon?
Did I?
Steins Gate.
I haven't watched any more since we talked last.
Same. That's why I didn't mention it.
We need to circle back real quick to that comment about being a disappointment.
Dream Drop Sora has actually got some commentary on Persona 5.
Ooh, boy.
Says the anime makes me super uneasy since I've played the game and tried to get friends into it, but battles in the anime don't translate the feelings of the game well. It's pretty annoying.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think if you're just wanting to experience the story, though, it's an easier way to go about it if you don't have, 120 hours.
Or money. I mean, it's on Verve. So, like, I started paying a subscription for that, and that's a lot. If I could pay for 6 months of Verve or pay for a single game when you're on a limited budget, it's...
Well,
and this is the kind of game that definitely has to be up your alley. Like,
yeah.
If you're not into JRPGs, then this is not for you.
If you don't like the combat, it's going to get really old really fast. I enjoyed the combat, and it still really eventually got old. But I don't know. I feel like there is some value to the anime, but it is a very different way to experience that story. I still enjoy the story though, which is why I'm actually sitting down and watching the anime through. Mm-hmm. I want to see how they went about adapting that into an anime this big from a game this big.
Right. Probably by just like touching on like key points and
it's
getting
the same reaon I couldn't get into the Phoenix Wright anime, because the way it handles investigations is really not good. Danganronpa is the same problem.
I can see where it's like anime adapted from games. Like it's hard to translate components or mechanics of a game to an anime. Sometimes it won't make sense.
It's almost like we've been trying to put video games into different mediums for years, and it just hasn't panned out.
That being said, the Phoenix Wright film is one of my favorite video game adaptations of all time.
There you go. No, I think it can be done well. A lot of the times, if people, here's the source material, here's the experiences you had here, let's try to make that into a movie and then give it to a bunch of people who don't understand it.
You even have movies like Ratchet and Clank, which was completely animated and very like true to the source material, but it was still a bad movie.
Yeah.
I feel like you have to go to a medium that like going from like a full-on game to a movie just isn't going to work, because you're cutting out this big of a story into something this big.
That's why I'm so excited for the Mario movie.
Because the story's all the same all the time.
Well, there's so much room for them to play around with it. And
right.
Miyamoto would not be making a movie if he didn't feel like he should be. Like, there's a reason he needs to make a movie, and that's why he's doing it.
Yeah.
Any other anime, Paul?
I think that's it.
We'll move on to games.
Watch Shokugeki no Soma.
Nintendo Snow Plays says P. Shaw hasn't panned out. The Mario movie is clearly and objectively the greatest film of all time.
Already.
I do have a great little place in my heart for the original Mario movie. It's bad in a great way. But I'll leave it at that. So we'll get into the gaming segment. Before we really get into that, though, Dream Drop Sora, you reminded me that Kingdom Hearts 3 kind of got a little bit of a blowout over the last couple days. There was a private, invitational-only event where people could go and play Kingdom Hearts 3. Like, just play the game. Apparently, it looks beautiful. I saw some Toy Story stuff, some Wreck-It Ralph stuff. And Dream Drop Sora mentioned earlier that the game is now completely 100% voice acted.
Oh.
That's a lot of voice acting.
In Kingdom Hearts games up till now, like, you'd have those segments outside of cutscenes where characters would talk to each other just via text box, and they wouldn't be voiced. So now apparently that's all voiced.
I'm really glad, because that always kind of bugged me with those games.
I've also heard that the combat is better, which piques my interest, because that's kind of the one area of Kingdom Hearts I'm not totally jiving with. But don't worry, I'm going to make my way through that series, and I'm going to play Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't feel like an upright PS2 game.
It doesn't look like one. It looks nice.
Well, yeah, but like, what happens if the mechanics feel the same?
Yeah, from that angle, for sure.
Right.
Nintendo Snow Plays says that Bob Hoskins makes him feel creepily happy. All right, moving on to games. I haven't played a ton this week. Well, that's kind of a lie. I played a lot this week, just in weird ways. Fast Racing RMX, I've been playing for the last couple days, because I never finished like the last 4 or 5 cups of that game, so I've been going back and playing those, and it just reminds me of how incredibly good that game is. It's made by an indie studio. It takes a lot from F-Zero, and it's just really solid. It's beautiful, runs really well. The mechanics are incredibly fine-tuned. The racing is super awesome. The thing that really got me back into it, though, is when I launched the game, I realized I was playing it in surround sound for the first time, and that is an audio experience to be had. You were going to say, Paul?
I think I'm going to have to go and play that. Interesting idea, but what if we gave that studio F-Zero and just see what they do?
Remember the original game? It's Fast Racing Neo. You take out the AST and Fast, the racing part, and the N in Neo, and you got F-Zero. It's
Not
already
a stretch.
there.
Not a stretch.
If Nintendo's just gonna sit on that IP, just put it in the hands of someone competent, someone that has proven that they can make a solid racing game that very interesting. Like the catch of that series, that whole franchise is just, I like it.
Logan, do you
having
have
to switch and then?
Do you have Fast Racing RMX, Logan?
I'm gonna let you answer that.
I'm gonna take that as a no.
I'm taking that as a maybe.
Paul, you
I
have
do
it,
not
right?
have
Yeah.
RMX.
I bought Fast Racing Neo on Wii U. Absolutely adored it. So I was very quick to purchase it on Switch when it came out because there was a lot of new content on top of that. So it was a great deal. Logan, are you into like the F-Zero games, or is that not something you've ever really done?
I'm pretty sure every week he's been like, make F-Zero!
I like the F-Zero game.
Okay.
I
was gonna say, if you love F-Zero, you really should own this game.
I've played Fast RMX, and I probably would be into it if I played enough. But there's a little bit of a learning curve, and it's hard to enjoy a game when you just really suck at it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm playing the easiest difficulty, and I'm
Smash
still
Bros.
coming in 3rd and 4th place in like every race.
Right. So,
but I'm learning.
I love the visuals though. I the fast racing, like that's the best.
They make you feel like you're going fast. Like there's some really cool
like
camera visuals.
Yeah.
Really quick,
I have a lot of respect for it.
Want to touch on the chat. I have played Oxenfree. I'm not very far in it, but I think it's pretty cool to have on Switch, and it was cheap. But I'm enjoying it so far.
We got it on sale for like $5.
Yeah. Also, rip Bob Hoskins, who is dead.
He is dead.
Dream Drop Sora says, "Who's Bob Hoskins?" And my heart sank a little bit.
Google him.
He played Mario in the Super Mario Brothers movie. He was also in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. One of my favorite movies of all time, by the way. Moving on from Fast Racing RMX, Logan, you and I played some Super Monkey Ball 2 through some means that we will not discuss on this show. I've never played Super Monkey Ball 2 before. I've played like the original Super Monkey Ball, and I've played some of the arcade games. This game's great. I missed out.
Yeah,
I really missed out.
There's a lot of good stuff. So, I mean, obviously, it's funny because, like, the first game, it's like, here's a handful of things you can do. It's a single-player game. And then they just go, like, full party mode on the second entry in the series. They, have, like...
That glide mini game we were playing was really impressive to me. I was like, this is incredibly well-designed for just a tacked-on mini game.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. It didn't feel tacked on. They felt very well thought out. There's, like, just some classic billiards. There's bowling, there's baseball, there's just a whole, the gliding one, it's called Target. Target's a lot of fun. And there's like, you start off with like 5 of them. I think maybe there's 12 of them. Like half of you start out with half, you know? And then as you progress, you unlock more. So yeah, I have so many fond memories of this game growing up, just having a fantastic time playing multiplayer, because the multiplayer is just, it's really gratifying, you know? And even if you're like challenging each other in challenge mode, you know, to the core kind of like game mode, right? You can't do co-op, but you can do the challenge mode, which is just as good. It's just as good. And I don't think that's always the same. I can't say the same for a lot of games, but it's just a really solid concept for a game, and then having all those party modes make for it's a very, very fun.
It's a very
a lot of fun
but fleshed out experience, and I think that was the most surprising thing to me. So I'm going to go back and play more Monkey Ball, because I was really, really into that. Moving away from Super Monkey Ball 2. If you see this little guy above my head in my webcam, if you don't know what that is one of the base stations for the HTC Vive virtual reality headset. I've had this for well over a year now. And over last weekend, I spent some time playing some GameCube games in VR. I played a handful. One of them was F-Zero GX. And one of the camera modes in that game, like, puts you right in front of your F-Zero machine. not in the cockpit, but like right on the nose of the vehicle. So I set it to that, and then played it in VR, and basically had a first-person F-Zero GX experience, and it was incredible. The sense of speed was amazing, and I could play the game, and I felt like my VR headset was actually adding to my experience. And not a lot of games in VR so far have really, really felt like that for me.
Especially games that weren't built for it.
Yeah. The fact that this game wasn't made for VR, but it works so incredibly well in VR is astounding to me. I played some other games, did Animal Crossing City Folk, and just played around like with the perspective, because you know that game world is built on a cylinder. So I'd like turn my head to the side and see the cylindrical world and watch things pop in and out of render, the culling. It was neat. You can change your positioning in VR in the GameCube games, so I could like change the scale essentially to make the Animal Crossing characters the same size as me. So I was hanging out behind my villager, like the same size as him. We were walking around town. It was super cool. It really didn't add a thing to Animal Crossing at all. It was just kind of neat to be on their level. The openings, I had to play the opening segment where you're on the bus with Rover. So I was just sitting across from Rover on the bus, and he was huge. It was terrifying how big he was. Our buddy Josiah was there with me, manning the computer and adjusting things like for scale. So he made sure me and Rover were on the same page. You know, he's not too much bigger than me. I was a little scared. Did some Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. That game is really pretty in VR. Everything looks like a diorama. Like the default settings are just above everything, and Mario is like this big. You can kind of see the whole area. Super cute. Really loved that. I would like lean in and get close to him. We did
Whisper
some
sweet nothings in his ear.
We did some battles, and like we changed the positioning a little bit so I'd be in the audience. Because you know those battles take place on a stage, and there's chairs and audience members who watch the battles. So I kind of got to watch it from the theater, which was kind of cool and kind of surreal. Like if we ever get a VR Paper Mario game, I kind of want it to be like that. By and large, like the best experience I had, and this is something I've had before that you and I tried, Logan, was Metroid Prime in VR. So
which did not work very well on my part when we did it that time.
Josiah and I found some workarounds. So we found an AR code, an action replay code, to turn off the culling so that the game would not cull the world in the directions, you know, that we weren't looking. So, like, in the main game, if I'm looking straight ahead, it will take things out of the left and right perspective that I can't see so that the game can load easier and render at a faster frame rate and all that jazz. But with the power of my computer, it could pretty much handle it, you know, at whatever amount it needed to be. So we turned off the culling completely and got the world to render in its entirety while we were playing. And the thing about Metroid Prime is, for whatever reason, I don't even know like why it works this way. The visor, you know, it has like the arm cannons and all the little features and like the radar you can see. It was moving with my head, which, if you ask me, is not something that should intrinsically work with VR. In my mind, when I move my head, the HUD stays here, because that is where it is programmed to be. But for whatever reason, it follows my head. So I'm inside Samus's helmet, and that is an experience that I cannot even begin to describe.
So you know what it's like to be Iron Man.
Pretty much. That's what it felt like. And having the whole world render around me, it was incredible. I was playing with my GameCube controller, and for whatever reason, I could run at like full speed in that game, and nothing made me motion sick. I don't understand why. It could have been that disconnect between me, the visor, and the world beyond the visor.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, I'm in a robot. The robot is moving, not me.
Right. I think it works well because that's how Samus kind of moves in the game. It's assistance from the suit, right?
Yeah.
So the game feels pretty floaty no matter what. And like, you know, say you do a double jump, because I've been playing a lot of Metroid Prime lately. You do a double jump and then you get that, you know, like you're not moving yourself, but there's like something on your back that's, you know, moving you along.
Right.
So yeah, it could feel very mechanical in that way, and that's maybe why it works.
So on top of that, you know, everything's positioned perfectly. My arm cannon is right where in my mind my arm would be. But here's where the craziness happens. We turned on like everything. So like we had everything unlocked, all of the arm cannon fire types, the missiles, the different visors. We tried out the thermal visor and the X-ray visor, and it just, I don't know how to describe it. It was surreal. Like, I felt like I had the power to like look through things just by the sheer fact that this is 3D and I could turn it on and off like that.
Right.
And on top of that, you know, like there's like the little like HUD elements, the targeting elements in the visor that would like snap onto things when you look at things.
Right.
Those are stacked on top of each other in 3D. It's not a 2D flat render. It is a 3-dimensional render. So I could peer through the different like circle targeting things, and it made it feel even more real than it would have otherwise.
Right.
So just like the stars align for this game in VR for whatever reason. Like Retro Studios was like, someone's gonna play this in VR someday. So let's do a little couple programming things to make sure it all works when we get there. I enjoyed myself so much. I might actually go back and play the entire trilogy this way.
That'd be pretty cool.
It's that good. So that was my experience in VR with GameCube games.
Well then,
Logan, you talked about Metroid Prime, so let's just kind of plunge into your stuff.
Yeah, so I'm chugging through Metroid Prime. I think I'm just about at the point where I'm the farthest I've ever been. So I've been to the phase on mines.
Oh, that's pretty late game. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I have the grapple beam now. I have just about all the bells and whistles, you know. I think I might be missing like one visor, though at the same time I think I have, because there's the scan visor. You start out with 2 visors. Yeah, I have all the visors. I have all the beams.
You're at the end of the game, buddy.
I have the Wave Buster. I have the Super Missile. Are there upgrades for the Plasma Beam and the Ice Beam?
I can't remember for the Ice Beam, but there definitely is one for the Plasma Beam, and I think they're both optional.
Yeah, no, I definitely knew they were optional. I think the only thing that's optional is the Super Missile.
Yeah, you need the Super Missile.
That. Yeah. Got the Power Bomb. So I'm getting pretty close.
I didn't know you were that far.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's not a very long game. And
15 hours.
I knew probably even less at this point. If I'm as far as I am, I'm like probably under 8 right now. And like, but the thing why it's going so quickly is because I've played most of this game before. I still remember a ton, you know? So I'm not unfamiliar with Metro. It's just I haven't finished all of the games.
Does this game not have one of the best game soundtracks ever?
Dude, it's so I get, oh my god. Let's be clear. I'm a pretty anxious person as is. But for some things you get used to them. I don't get used to this. Every time that like music comes on, Space Pirates, I'm just like, oh no, this isn't happening right now. But I mean, I'm so efficient, and I know how the game functions well, that if you watch me play, it looks like second nature. You know, just constantly tapping L and shooting with A, and just like cleaning up the screen. You know, it's like so. The game functions so well, you know. We might have mentioned this last week. It plays to the limitations, you know. It's mindful of what it's being played on. So I'm excited to finish that game. I'm so excited to finish that game because
Nintendo Snow, really quick. Nintendo Snow Plays makes a good point. On the subject of VR, you know, the GameCube originally had been experimented with 3D, and that could account for why Metroid Prime works so well.
Ah, yeah, that would make a lot of sense. Yeah. So outside of Metroid Prime, I've also been digging into some older games, right? I was playing Majora's Mask earlier, and I just finished the Great Bay Temple.
Okay, so you got one more to go.
Yeah, so I am at the end of both these games, and I'm like, I need to finish this, so I need to at least put time. I've used the guide a lot because that game is so convoluted.
Have you been doing any side quests?
I have been doing side quests. But I can't do them for too long because I need to progress, you know?
There's a pretty good one that you might just want to think about doing that's in the Goron place that you might want just do that one.
Okay. Well, I just finished up the temples. More side questing, kind of just because side questing is more casual, right? So like you focus on one thing at a time. You go get the thing, you go return it, and then you just restart the cycle, and then you go to the next one, and then you just keep doing that, rinse and repeat. I think what kept me from this game for so long was the time mechanic. It was intimidating. But once you gain... especially at the beginning of the game. But once you gain certain tools to slow time down, it becomes a much more relaxed experience. And once you know what you're keeping and what you're losing, that's pretty key.
Yeah, the game doesn't really like explicitly tell you that at the beginning.
You just
you kind of figure it out.
Yeah, so obviously, like that shapes decisions I make. So it's like, oh, do I continue on? Do I have enough time to do like the rest of this temple with the rest of the time? Or do I just cut my losses, come back at the beginning of the first day and do it from there? You know, it's usually the safest bet. So you restart, you do the inverted Song of Time to slow down time, and then you go right to where you need to be, and you have to do the temple, you know?
And it slows down time by a significant margin.
Oh, at least 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one criticism of the game I think I could make, is that maybe it should telegraph what types of items you keep when you go back in time. Because if you have certain key items in a dungeon, you can go back and basically start where you were.
Yeah, it's funny. So, like, you won't keep, like, small keys or boss keys. But if, like, for example, I picked up in this temple the ice arrow, right? And then when I'd finished most of the temple, and then I was like, I don't have enough time to beat the last final boss. So I'm just going to have to do it all over again, right? And so I did, and then I got the small key, and then I did the whole room with the ice arrow again, even though I had the ice arrow, and I'm like, I didn't even have to do that.
It does offer some ways to like skip rooms to avoid that.
Yeah, these dungeons seem really open.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So I don't know if I guess I'll probably have more to say once I finish the game.
I'm definitely curious about how you'll react to the last temple, because it might be one of the best in this series history.
Okay. I've been trying. I try my best not to look at the guide, but I'll look at the guide.
I'll forgive you for Great Bay, because Great Bay Temple is confusing.
Yeah, no kidding. The other ones I didn't have to. The other ones, but then I got in this one. I was like, okay, moving on. There's a few other games I played this week that we did not already mention that we played together. One of those games is playing Arkham Knight. I have finished Arkham Asylum. I have not beaten Arkham City, but I have Arkham Knight, and I started playing Arkham Knight. because I had started playing it before, and let me tell you, the Batmobile is so smooth. Like,
they put a lot of time into that.
Yeah, so obviously, like, I love the idea of having a car, right? But I'm really picky about driving mechanics, and what's the purpose of the mechanic, right? And so for like racing games, those have a little bit more liberty because they can be as stylized because you're actually playing the racing, right? Whereas initially when they revealed, well, here's the Batmobile for Arkham Knight, I was like, are they going to screw this up? But it's how you'd expect the Batmobile to be. High tech, you're always in control. You know, it's the freaking like fanciest, coolest supercar in the world.
And
right?
And just because you're in Gotham City, like your first thought was that, oh, this is going to be clunky, just like driving around the city. The city is like destructible so that you can just drive through stuff. Nothing like hinders you.
Nothing stops you. And then like making turns is no problem. And then how seamless it is to go between like the car mode and the tank mode. Like, it just feels so good. All of a sudden, like, I'm driving at full speed, and all of a sudden, like, I see a bunch of dudes in front of me, and then I just pop into tank mode and just start, you know, like, blowing off shots, and it's just, it feels so good. It's so satisfying. And the myriad of ways they use it thematically and situationally, like, you know, you have to go onto this like island, right? And you drive your Batmobile over there, and then you're trying to get your Batmobile to certain places so it can either power things, and then also like, oh, here's a guy and I gotta rescue him, so I'm gonna put him in the back of my Batmobile, you know, and then just bring him back to safety. And so the ways they use it and how it's integrated into the gameplay, why wasn't it there the whole time? You know, each time they kind of added, you know, more to the game. So Arkham Asylum is a very short experience, right? Very small experience. It's like, here's like a few different sections with a few things to do. It's still Batman. It's still great, but it's just the Asylum.
I nearly 100%ed that game. That's how much fun I was having.
No, I did too. I think the only reason I didn't 100% at the time, and it was running very poorly. But now that I have a much better computer, like, I don't have that issue. I'm not sure I'll go back and finish it because it's just like little things. I think I got like 87% completion in that game.
So I'm talking about Arkham Knight.
Oh, well, I was talking about Arkham Asylum. But yeah, I mean, all the games are a lot of fun. But they keep like adding stuff. Like, so like Arkham City, they just upped everything. They made everything bigger. They made traversal a little bit smoother and gave you more options for traversal, because there was more ways to move around. And then they just did the same thing with Arkham Knight. You know, it's like, okay, here's the whole of Gotham this time. It's like, okay, we've unlocked it, right? So we had to gain people's trust with a little bit, and now you get a lot. And I'm really enjoying my time.
Arkham Knight has the best story of the three. By a large margin.
That's good. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is another older game that came out in 2010. Ooh, old. Fallout New Vegas. I really, and I've never beaten it. I've never had a consistent way to play it. And now that I do, there's no stopping me. So I imagine there will be maybe 1 or 2 sessions this week where I'll just spend a good amount of time in New Vegas, and it's going to be a lot of fun. That's all I really have to say about it. I'll let you know how my adventures go when I'm living in the wasteland.
Can we get a Fallout game on Switch? Like a remake?
I'll take. Here's the minimum I'll take. I'll take a remaster of New Vegas and Fallout 3 in the same package.
I've never played one of them, so I would probably just buy whatever they put on there.
right? Both are great games. Both are great games. New Vegas leans heavier into the role playing, much heavier into the role playing, and the role playing on like a global scale, you know. So making friends or pissing off like different factions, and whereas like I think 3 just has like a karma system where it's like you did a good thing, you did a bad thing, whereas New Vegas, that person, those people over there, because you helped these people, they hate you. They hate you. And you didn't have to talk to them at all. And sometimes you'll double play people, like you'll turn people in, they'll like trust you to do something, and then you'll be like, I have several options of what I could do with this. I could choose to do nothing and just kill everybody. Or I could turn this information over to this other faction, screw these guys over. Or, you know, and so you can just play both sides. You can be the good guy. You can be the bad guy. Like you can do whatever you like. I'm just kind of going with the flow, whatever feels right.
That's how you're supposed to do it.
Right on.
All right, Paul, what do you got?
So I've had the opportunity to sit down and play some classic GameCube games. One such game that we all experienced together was Double Dash. Double Dash.
I love me some Double Dash.
I didn't play Double Dash. Wait. Yes, I did.
You did.
Yeah, you did. We played battle mode.
2 against 1, you were there.
Bob on Blast, one of the best battle modes they've ever done.
The best battle mode stage, though, the GameCube.
The GameCube. Too small.
That's what makes it so great, man.
Luigi's Mansion is my personal favorite, but I do like the GameCube a lot.
The freaking GameCube. I love how they kept like that going with like on the Mario Kart DS, you'd battle on the DS.
And you could drive like to both screens, and there was like a ramp leading up to the top one.
I think that's like the pinnacle of great stage design.
I want to play on a Nintendo Switch where the Joy-Cons will detach periodically. Separating everybody.
You have 2 switches and the Joy-Cons detach and like change which switch they're on.
It's got it all wrong. It'll be like this bedroom, and then it'll have a switch in the center that you can drive on.
And the
then
Switch is playing
like,
Smash Bros.
Well, no, there'll be different like cartridges and peripherals just lying around, like it's on the floor of a messy bedroom or something.
I'd be okay with that too. I took a little bit of time to sit down and play through one of my favorite Mario games, Sunshine.
Did you finish it?
I didn't finish it. I only got a handful of Shine Sprites because I didn't have a whole lot of time, but it just felt so great to be playing that game again. They really need an HD remaster of that on Switch.
That's kind of what's keeping me from playing it a lot, is the anticipation that this will happen someday, and I want it to be as fresh for me as possible.
I hope that when they do, at least they'll update. There are things that need to change.
Oh yeah, that pachinko level either needs to get cut or they need to fix it.
There's a handful of different places like that just.
That is some of the worst game programming ever.
Wait, so what is this?
The pachinko stage, where you're Mario in a giant pachinko machine. You launch yourself into the machine, and there's different like pockets you can land in that have 8 red coins. If you miss any single one of those pockets, you die. And you have to succeed in this 8 times in a row, but it's so poorly programmed that you can't control Mario well enough to even accomplish it competently.
And you have to do it in one go.
With hacks, I couldn't beat it.
Yeah, I mean,
if you
I'm not
you
going
to start over, is what you're saying.
I'm never going to say that Sunshine's the best 3D Mario game, but it holds a very special place. It was like one of the first GameCube games I got. But
Logan, play that pachinko level and then come and talk to me and see what you think.
Okay.
Speaking of early GameCube games that I owned, I sat down to play the game that convinced me I needed a GameCube in the first place, which is Phantasy Star Online.
Can we get a little insight into that story? Because I'm not sure I even know it that well.
So, my neighbor, he had a GameCube. He had a copy of Phantasy Star Online. And I didn't hang out with him very often, but one miraculous evening, I went over to his house, and he sat me down and we started playing this game. You know, and it was, I think, one of the first games I ever had like that had a character creator. So I got to make, you know, my own avatar to engage in this really interesting like fantasy world. And you know, my character had a beam sword. And so this was obviously like the coolest game ever made to like probably 8-year-old me, 9-year-old me. I don't know. But I had so much fun playing through this game at my neighbor's house that I just had to get a GameCube. I had to get a copy of this game, and I had to be able to play this, you know, at home. I needed to have this experience outside of just hanging out with my neighbor. And so it prompted me really fast to bug my parents until I got a GameCube. I never got a chance to play the game online. You had to get a modem adapter for the GameCube, and I think there might have been like a service fee in order to actually play online. But with offline, you had up to 4 players could split screen through this or through the game world, and it's a very interesting dynamic because my neighbor was always like a higher level than me. And so he could easily clear out some of the early stages of all the enemies that would show up. What I'd have to do in order to catch up, if I wanted to get experience, I had to run in, I had to hit every enemy, and then I had to let him run through and tank everything. That's the only way you get experience points.
So you have to have at least hit something.
Yeah, you can't just like let the other person just carry you through. And there's a lot, I think like 3 different character classes, and then there's some variation between that. There's like humans and androids that you can choose, and they all have different abilities. So like my character, I can use certain weapons, and I can use, because I'm a human, I can use magic. If I was an android, I could see traps, but I couldn't use magic, and I could probably use a couple more weapons that I couldn't as a human. And so one of the aspects of this game, granted, I'm not going to be able to like play split screen with anyone, I'm still saving certain weapons that I can't use because, hey, if I, by some miracle, I do have someone I can play this with, I can hook them up with this really sick weapon that I found.
Right.
And like, I'm saving all the money that I can. You know, if we started playing, today, I could drop, 1,000 set on the ground, and you guys could just pick it up and, be set from the get-go. There's really great social dynamic to this game. And granted, looking back at it now, it's a product of the era. Certain things about it don't necessarily hold up as well, or I'd like to see them updated, and they did update it, and they're not bringing it to the West, and it breaks my heart even more now.
Well, the one that's out in Japan right now is a completely new game.
I'm sure it takes a lot from the episode 1 and 2 and just kind of updates it and modernizes it. I'm sure a lot of the core elements to this franchise are still there.
I've played a little bit of the new one, and it was pretty much the old games, except the combos were a little more cool to watch.
Gotcha. I'd like to see them add like maybe a dodge mechanic or some kind of shield mechanic.
I'd want to say the combat was like evolved enough to have that in there. I only played through the tutorial because I couldn't read any of the Japanese.
That's fair. I mean, just playing through like this game, even though it's not as pristine as it could be, there's so much potential there, and I'm having a blast playing through this again. And so it really it breaks my heart more. It breaks my heart all over again that the Phantasy Star Online 2 didn't make it here. But it makes me ever hopeful for 3. This defined multiplayer gaming for me when I was, a very young child. So I've never gotten another experience that was quite on that level.
Can you just download the Japanese client through a Japanese eShop account and then just play the game?
Without understanding it.
Might be worth a try.
I found an article and
the game is Dream Drop Sora is pointing out that the game is streamed to your Switch and does not run on it.
Yeah, that's such a weird concept.
You could basically run kind of any game ever through that. What were you saying, Logan?
Oh, I found an article that was posted earlier last year, April 14th, 2017. And it's a PC Gamer article. Phantasy Star Online will never die. How the nicest fans in gaming keep a 16-year-old MMO alive. And it's talking about these people who are like super into Phantasy Star Online, and how they like kind of just keep it going. It sounds like, you know, people host their own servers for an emulator for the PC version, and apparently people still find ways to play this game online. You know, there's ways, it's just not very convenient.
I wish that they would have an official way. At least over in the West, you know, Japan, they got themselves covered.
Right.
Lucky.
Are you talking the original game? Like the original Phantasy Star Online?
I think Phantasy Star Online 2. Well, this one just says the 2.3 PC version of Phantasy Star Online. I don't know. I'd have to really look to it. I'm just kind of grazing here.
Because the one that's in Japan right now is only like 3 or 4 years old.
Right. It came out in like 2012.
Yeah.
Or some stuff like that.
I remember because Josiah was very much into it when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really great franchise. Like I said, for me, it defined multiplayer and what it could and should be.
And now we play Monster Hunter.
I'd still would take that over Monster Hunter, if I have to be honest.
I would never take it over Monster Hunter, but I was bred a Monster Hunter fighter.
I haven't played it, so...
Well, I have played it, just not to the same extent.
Fight. I
think Monster Hunter is a better game. Sorry.
Well, we're all entitled to be wrong every now and again.
Just like you.
We got some salt going on.
You're entitled to your opinion.
So is everybody else. Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Quickly to mention Dream Drop Sora, I have not played Nier Automata. I intend on playing that soon. That is just on a list of things that I'm waiting to drop in price. I think it's like $30 right now. New. It is getting spicy in here. That's why Paul and I are on, we're not in the same, like, space on the screen. Like,
because there would be... thrown.
We're gonna scrap.
That's a very special episode that'll come up in the future.
So that's gonna do it for this week's episode of the Breakdown Podcast. I want to thank you guys for watching. As you may have found out during the course of the show, we are on your favorite podcast sources. These episodes go on those sources on Mondays. So if you missed the live broadcast on Friday and can't watch it on YouTube after it goes live, you can watch or listen to it, on the podcast sources after that. You can also go to our website and listen to it there if you want to be an even cooler fan. Make sure to rate us on those because I don't think we have any outside of maybe ourselves. But that's neither here nor there. We got some special stuff coming up here next month. We're going to be hitting that E3 stuff hard. We're basically going to stream the entire event front to back. Every press conference, and we'll be streaming Nintendo stuff. I don't know how deep we'll get into Nintendo Treehouse Live. We'll probably stick around for a lot of the Smash stuff. It really just depends on the game lineup. We'll be streaming the Splatoon 2 finals. And then go directly into streaming the Super Smash Bros. Invitational Tournament. We're going to be having a lot of fun and probably be really tired, and my wife's probably going to have to go get me food and bring me water because I'll be here in the command chair all day.
Well, I'm just going to starve and die, so look forward to that.
I'll teleport you some food, Paul.
Cool.
So yeah, unfortunately, we're not going to E3 as much as we'd love to. It's just it's a little expensive right now. We're hoping to go next year. I think that's definitely something we all hope for. I have friends who live in LA and California who are going to E3, and they both work in games. One of them is an audio engineer for DICE, and I think he's involved with Battlefield 5. So that's cool, because that's getting revealed here pretty shortly. And the other one works on mobile games, so I know some interesting people.
There's also some exciting things to look forward to after this, right?
Splatoon! Splatoon. Oh. Are we still doing that?
I was planning on it.
So I guess if you want to stick around, right after the show's over, we're going to stream the Splatoon 2 Splatfest. I actually think that starts in half an hour, so we'll be back in half an hour when that's ready to go. Team Donnie.
Ciao.
Is it Team Donnie versus Leo or Raph? I don't remember who won the first one.
I think it was...
Yeah.
Team Donnie versus Raph versus Donnie?
Yup.
Cool. So stick around for that. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff.
Where can they find us, Brandon?
You can find us in all of the places that are on the screen if you're watching the video version, such as on Twitter at Babababs or at LoggyDubs or at Gunnysaurus or at Breakroom Arcade. You can find us at Breakroom Arcade on pretty much every social media you can think of. And join our Discord server. There's a link to it in the description. If you want to hang out with us, talk to us directly, definitely do that. We're pretty much in there all the time. And we'd like to see those numbers grow, as well as our Patreon. If you want to support us, if you like what we do here, check out the Patreon page. There's a link to that in the description. There's some Discord and
E3.
There's some Discord and podcast rewards in there, as well as the ability to get us to E3 if we hit those goals. So thank you guys for listening. We'll be back next week with the Breakdown Podcast, episode 15, hopefully with some Pokemon news.
Oh, boy.
So we'll see you guys there. Don't break your backs, break in the games. But for now, break time's over.